That was Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush. If you've been watching Pose, you will understand why that song in particular is important. That song, I think what was this? Was this episode 1?
The pilot.
Yeah, it was in the pilot, and it was the song that was playing when what's his name? Stan and Angel were leaving the hotel for the first time, and that song was playing in the car, and she said, "This would be our song," and I thought that was pretty, and it's been a very, very intense song for me over the past couple of weeks, because I feel it. Like, the first time I heard it, I think I was like on the verge of crying and shit. Like, it was like that. But at any rate, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this conversation that me and my husband had in the car on our way to the Walmart. What we usually do is we talk about what we're going to talk about before we talk about it with you guys. But this conversation was too important to just, take notes from and then just talk about it with you guys. So here's the raw file from our conversation today on our way to Walmart.
Where were we at? You said
we were talking about Elektra. How it seems like she's in a controlling relationship.
Yeah.
With I don't even know the dude's name.
It's played by
Chris Maloney.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what it seemed like she was in. She's in a controlling relationship, and she's kind of. It's almost like she's affirming. I guess that's the right word I'm using. Affirming her individuality and also taking control of her life by going through with the sex change.
Yeah.
And I think they implied at the end of the episode that she actually did go through with it.
Yeah.
Like she weighed her consequences and was like, "Fuck it, my happiness is more important." And she's right. Her happiness is more important than trying to please some sugar daddy.
Yeah, like with her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Her daughter thought it was cool to go out and get butt injections from some old rinky-dink place. And it happens, and it has happened a lot with a lot of, young women who want to make alterations to their body. And they go to these women, and, they put their trust in these women, and these women put these fucked up ass injections into them.
They put God knows what into them.
And women have died.
Yeah.
Died from this. And the episode last night, she fucking passed out. Granted, after she won her first trophy in a while.
Right. She gave a great performance, but passed out from it. And then she ended up having the flu or an illness or something.
No, she had an infection.
Oh, yeah.
That, and, of course, Elektra, Mother Abundance, got her antibiotics.
Mm-hmm. And then she was like, if you wanted to do that, you could have told me. I would have pointed you in the direction of someone who was safer.
Right. I mean, it seems like she doesn't care, but she does.
Yeah.
She's one of those people who's like, don't do things and not tell me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already going through enough.
So that lets you know that she actually does care about her daughters and her house kids. She just... She be treating them so bad sometimes. But it was also Candy. It also opened up a storyline for Candy because we didn't know who the hell Candy was until this episode.
She was just some girl.
Yeah.
And the other girl, she's just still there.
Mm-hmm. So I guess we're going to find out something about her life in an episode eventually.
Eventually.
But this episode wasn't totally about Elektra.
No.
It was also about other characters like Damon and his boo and Pray Tell and HIV as a whole. So, was it because of Blanca?
Oh, no. Damon
Damon got sick, and he had symptoms that were almost like the acute infection stage of HIV. If no one knows what that is, the acute infection stage is the moment, like around the time you get infected, you come down with flu-like symptoms, and it's like the worst flu you ever had, and then it just mysteriously goes away. That pretty much means that the virus is in your system, and that it's fooled your body into believing that everything's all cool and stuff, while now, at this point, it's replicating. Now, the reason why I said at the beginning of this recording that it came a little close to home for me. Wow, that lighting's beautiful. It came a little close to home for me because that was what happened to me when I got infected. And it was funny because not funny per se, but it's funny the things that people talk about, because in the episode, Damon's boo said, the only way you can catch it is if you're a bottom, if you're receiving. I said, hell no, that is wrong. You can catch it whether you're topping, whether you're bottoming. You don't even have to actually have sex. You can have oral sex and still catch it. So that it's just to this day, people are still ignorant to how you can contract this virus. There's a variety of ways you can contract it. You don't necessarily have to have sex. You can get it from sharing needles.
Yeah, breast milk.
Yeah.
Mother to child transmission during birth.
Yep. So for me, it hit close to home because I got sick. My parents were like, "What's wrong with you? You've never really had the flu like this, and it's out of season for you to have the flu." Yeah, it was like fall, and I was having the flu. You normally don't catch the flu until it's like wintertime. Deep in winter, you normally catch the flu. That's when the flu starts running around. So something within me just said, you might need to go get tested. Because it's kind of weird that, you're sick now after you done had sex with someone. Yes, it was unprotected. And now you're sick. You might have that shit. You might have HIV. Go get tested. So I went and got tested, and sure enough, I found out that I've recently been infected. So for me, that episode came close to home because in that episode, because Damon got sick, it kind of caused everyone to kind of panic. And in the midst of that panic, I'm not sure if it was, Pray Tell decided to take all the boys of the house.
Bobby, Damon,
Damon's boo.
And he and Pray Tell, they all decided to go get tested.
Yeah. So one by one, we start getting the results. Damon's negative, Damon's boo's negative, Poppy's negative, and the last person to go in is Pray Tell. This scene was probably the most raw and moving scene of the episode, because it was revealed that Pray Tell's positive.
Yeah, especially after he made a comment last episode, episode 3, where he was like, the past few years, all he's seen was every lover go in and out the hospital.
So, from outside looking in, it looks like, well, it was only a matter of time before you became infected.
Right.
But his reaction was, I don't want to say typical. It was a reaction that probably every person who was diagnosed had. Because his reaction was, retake the test. It could have been a false positive. They could have messed up. And she said, no, we've already tested it multiple times. And that's true. When they do find out that someone's positive, they test your blood multiple times to make sure that the result is that result. Because they don't want to be telling you, hey, you're positive, when in fact you're negative or whatever.
Because the first test they do is an antibody test.
Right.
And then if you get antibodies, they'll test to see if you have to how many antibodies, how many of the virus.
Right.
With your viral load.
Right. So when she did tell Pray Tell, she did it in such a way where, of course, like, all sex police do, that feeling where you feel like you're alone, even though you're sitting right in front of someone, and either you're alone or they're miles away. So he asked her to have the room to himself for a little bit, and he bawled his eyes out. So when he gets out of the room, they're all, all the boys are like, are you good? You're good? And he's like, I'm negative. Now, a lot of people probably would be upset by that, but listen to me for a second. It's 1987. So just about everyone who contracted the virus ended up dying in some way, shape, or form, whether they took the meds or not. These boys look up to Pray Tell and Blanca as a mother and father figure. If they did tell them, if they did disclose their status to them, it would cause the boys to lose focus on whatever they're doing and what they need to do, and it would cause them to throw everything away just to make sure that mommy and daddy are okay. And mommy and daddy don't want them worrying about them because they want them to survive. They want them to outlive them. They want them to find happiness in this sordid life. So I can understand why either Blanca or Pray Tell did not disclose their status. Now, Pray Tell did disclose his status to Blanca, though. And Blanca was in just as much disbelief as he was. But to me, that was the saddest part of the episode, because even though I kind of knew that Pray Tell would be positive, I was praying he wouldn't be. Because I was hoping he wouldn't be. But yeah, I think this is another reason why a lot of people really need to watch Pose.
Yeah.
Because they touch on subjects that are, and they do it in such a way where they're careful with it. And they give it enough time. They don't just skim over it and move on to the next problem, like Empire does, or did. It's just, yeah. For me, that it hit home. It didn't hit hard. It just hit home. Now,
As we're on it. Yesterday was the season finale of Westworld.
Yeah.
And what the fuck?
They jumped all over the place. But granted, it's from Bernard's perspective, so
it's from Bernard. I believe it's from Bernard's perspective, and we're not really watching. We're being told what's happening.
Yeah, because
when you get to that part where he's like, I'm sorry.
That's in the past. Because episode one was current. It was a current timeline. It was after all that shit in episodes 2 through 10 happened. It looped all the way back over to episode 1.
It's crazy.
So 4 was nothing but a figment of his imagination that existed after he deleted Ford's code. But in a sense, he brought Ford back by the memories and stuff. And to a host, memories are still data.
Yeah.
So Ford sort of lives on, but he's not manipulative as he was before. Dolores. Where do we start with her?
We just thought she was on a fucking murderous rampage, which she was.
Yeah. And I'm trying to get her motive, because I think her motive was she wanted all the hosts to be truly free and to live life to whatever they wanted it to be.
Yeah. And she didn't want it to be in that figment world that they created,
which really was something that Bernard created for the safety of all the hosts.
Right.
Because we all know if they tried to integrate with humans, humanity would destroy them out of fear.
I think it was something like a passageway. It was some type of a passage ship or some shit like that.
Yeah, and apparently she, when all the hosts were in that space, she beamed them far away to somewhere where no one could reach them. I want to say the moon, but the moon's reachable by humans. So she threw them out somewhere where no one could reach them, and they'd truly be safe, and they'd truly be able to eke out their lives and do whatever they wanted to do. But at the same time, they have a vast library full of human knowledge.
Yeah.
So with that, I mean, it's interesting because it seems like they're creating a lot of bridges for season 3. We know it's been renewed for another season, and apparently it's been renewed for 5 seasons. So we're going to have seasons 3, 4, and 5 eventually. But I really don't know where they could go from here, because in the final episode, Bernard and Dolores are mortal enemies because reasons. She still wants to destroy. Well, no, she's still angry at humanity. Okay, I get her motive. She believes that humans are inferior to hosts because humans die. Humans are full of frailty. Humans are bound to repeat the same loops unless there's a strong deviation. Because what they showed when they went into the forge and they met Logan.
Yeah.
They showed that basically the first test subject had always been James Delos, and he still is the test subject. They're still trying to perfect the whole thing of creating a digital copy of a human, and that human not going insane from it.
Right.
I also like how a lot of people overlooked the fact that the reason why Arnold could no longer exist in a robotic body was because he would eventually lead back to the loop of him killing himself, because his reasoning for killing himself is so strong, because he feared that when the host gained consciousness it would cause a conflict, and it did. But in order for Bernard to exist, they had to create a whole new person. So Bernard is truly himself. He's an individual. He's not a copy. Unlike James Delos is a copy, and he's several copies actually. But from what we got from Logan was what we got from DigiLogan was that humanity is bound to repeat their same loops, whether they like it or not.
They end up in the same places.
It makes you think about causality.
Mm-hmm.
And that is human life. Do we really have the freedom of choice or free will that we think we do? Because apparently our end's already been written.
Like that line, I think she was they was asking, do humans really have free will? And it was like, well, the only thing humans can really do is act accordingly.
Yeah.
Which is true.
Yeah.
That's so true. In this life, the only thing we can do as humans is act accordingly.
Yeah, because, I mean, even beyond laws, there's a reason why humans don't go around just killing people. Granted, we do, but not everyone's doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's a reason why we as humans don't rob banks. We all don't steal from each other.
And and a lot of times the reason why people are doing that is because acting accordingly doesn't work for them.
It drives you insane. The human condition. And it makes you feel like nothing is ever truly yours.
Right.
Even your life. And really, Westworld just did nothing but solidify that. But there's so many questions. God, the after credit footage with Bill. No, yeah, Will. I want to keep calling him Bill. With the fidelity test, and I kind of forgot the reason why he was digging out his arm. That's where the USB ports for the hosts are. And he was just digging in there, and I'm thinking, this is a human. Humans experience pain, regardless of what state of mind we're in. We're going to feel pain. So if you're digging deep inside your arm, that's just going to fucking hurt. And he was just, And if you saw it, if you look closely in that footage, he had a hole in his arm. Not to mention, throughout season 2, this man took so many shots it wasn't even funny.
Yeah.
Hell, at the end of the season finale of season 1, he got shot and just kind of was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And then throughout the whole season, he's just getting shot and shot and shot and shot and just lit up by just about everybody. And somehow he still lives. Now that made me think about that time in season 1 where Dolores was stabbed, and she didn't even die from that. She passed out, yeah, but she didn't die. Not to mention the scene where Will's shooting Dolores on her chest,
And she's just walking towards him
like nothing.
Like, nigga, like, bruh.
Confirmed that he did in fact kill his real daughter, because she's been hostified, because she didn't call him Dad, she called him William. And it's just weird that they ended it on a fidelity test.
Yeah, on his fidelity test. And he was like, what?
And yeah,
how many times have we done this? And then the whole thing about when she was like, how long have you been in the park?
And he's been in the park since we can remember. He was in the park all of season 1. There was never really any footage where he was outside of the park. Even when he became CEO, he was still in the park.
There was footage. Remember when they had the party?
Yeah, okay. That one instant. Well, no. So, I think there was 2 instances.
So at some point, he died.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think I low-key feel like the trauma from his wife killing herself caused him to just lose it. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Because he fell in love with Dolores only to realize that she was just repeating her loops and kept forgetting about him every single time that she was rebooted. So that became like kind of a one-sided relationship, because it's like being in love with an amnesiac who really can't remember you no matter how hard they try.
Right.
And then he probably went home to his wife, and then she had that thing where she was questioning what's real.
Yeah, which was so weird.
They never answered that.
Why was she doing that? Why was she going through that?
But it was something that they knew that pertained to his profile. They never really said anything about that. I guess they implied that people believed that she became horrified by the acts that he did when he was in the park, which makes sense. But I think that's more to it than that, because it's Westworld. Everything is always so seemingly with that show.
I guess we won't find out.
Is Dolores and Hale, are they still is that a copy of Dolores, or is that at a different time period?
What you talking about?
Because remember, he made a host version of Hale, Charlotte Hale, and then had her host copy kill her. Now, I believe there was data. I believe they had digitized her mind also, because I think just about everyone who stepped foot in the park was digitized, and that includes the staff.
Right.
She was staff, definitely. And now it's having me wonder if Dolores did some weird thing where she kind of like split her consciousness into two different host bodies, or did she create a copy of her brain that just kind of keeps in link with the other one?
Bernard did that.
Okay, yeah, he did do that. He just put her brain into her body. I think that's all we got for Westworld. Now, Pose.
Pose. We're on episode 4 of Pose.
Yep, episode 4. I think this one kind of hit close to home. For me, it did. Because this episode, God, what were they talking about? They talked about Elektra dealing with wanting to become...
Elektra abundance was brought down to humility.
Yeah.
On this episode,
really
we got to see a side of her that we hadn't seen in 3 episodes. We got to see her cry.
Yeah. And to see her... Oh, she also revealed her age. She's 40.
Is she?
Yes, she's 40. So everyone was really making fun of her old age when in reality, yeah, she's pushing it in the gay world.
And then the guy she's with, and how they've been quote unquote together for 10 years, but that's not what it is. They're not together. He's just fetishizing her.
Yeah.
And she's just a fetish. And she brought that up because when she said that she wanted to have a sex change, he was like, you know how I feel about that. I want you just the way you are, and if you change things, it changes us, this and this and that.
Right.
You know, basically trying to convince her to keep the way she is, but, you know, in order to keep the lifestyle that she has, which isn't fair. Because
no, it isn't.
She's not happy.
No. Because she sees herself as a woman, and...
every time she looks in between her legs, it hurts her.
Yeah.
And, you know, I could be talking from ignorance, but... I mean, I guess I can understand, you know, growing up, especially growing up in this world where you're told the only way you can be something is by having ABC. And if you don't have ABC, you can't have XYZ, or you can't be XYZ. So, you know, people try very hard to obtain ABC in order to do XYZ.
Yeah.
And if they can't, it becomes disheartening. You know, doctors call it dysmorphia. I call it society. I call it societal problems. I don't think it has anything to do with the person, the individual person. I think it has everything to do with our society as a whole and how we choose to see individual people.
Yeah, because there's women who will say, well, a transsexual isn't really a woman or a man,
right? Because
they changed their sex.
Even I've had to stop saying real women, because there's no such thing as a real woman.
Yeah,
you're either cisgender, transgendered, or whatever, but you're not a real woman. There's no such thing as a real woman.
Right.
We're real people. We're real humans. But even then, Westworld makes us rethink that.
Right. It was interesting about with this episode in Pose, because it gave me the thought of your genitals don't make you.
No.
And there's a lot of guys who act like, well, because I got a big dick, that means I'm more of a man. No, it just means you happen to have a genetic anomaly that gave you a huge dick. That's really it.
That don't make you a good man, and it doesn't make you a great leg.
No, it doesn't, because a lot of guys who packing down there don't know what the fuck they're doing. But that's another topic. But it was interesting because even to this day, a lot of gay men and women, transgender or not, they fight really hard to gain this acceptance of being a real, quote unquote, real man or quote unquote real woman. It's this whole thing of seeking validation. And yes, I know seeking validation is a bad, self-destructive thing, but whether we like it or not, we do seek validation from others. In some way, shape, or form, we seek validation from others, even our peers, our closest friends, our family members. And so I think that Elektra probably thought that she could confide in her sugar daddy because they've been together for 10 years.
Right.
You know, they've been doing stuff for 10 years.
10.
But he kind of pulled the wool over her eyes and was like, nah, bitch, we just fucking. You're my dirty little secret.
Basically.
And that's how he talked to her. Like, you're fun. You're a toy of mine. I get to play around with you whenever I want to. And I get to walk around knowing that you're my plaything, and, you know, no one else knows that you have a dick between your legs. Everyone thinks that you're a woman, and hey, that turns me on.
That's crazy.
And it's true.
That sounds like insanity.
Yeah, and there's a whole sexual category. There's a whole pornographic category dedicated to women who have not fully changed their gender.
And I mean, like,
their genitalia.
But I mean, I understand having that as a preference. But having that because...
But that's what I got from that scene. He was controlling her. And I think back to last episode 3, where she was like, he counts everything that I do.
Mm-hmm. Every dime, every cent that he gives me. Every gift.
Yeah. So, she probably feels trapped in a controlling relationship with him. And... It kind of makes me understand why she treats people the way she treats people.
Right.
She feels like she's trapped and she's down and...
So, you guys have to listen to how our process works. That is, those were conversations that me and my husband have with each other. Those are everyday normal conversations between him and I. And this is kind of why we decided to start, you know, this podcast about Pose and well, this is why Pose and Westworld was inspired the podcast for, you know, television and movies, because television and movies, they kind of give us a reflection of life. You know, they're the pictures, our paintings for today. Next week we'll go back to our regularly scheduled live, and you know, you probably won't get raw files, but I hope you enjoyed. And I look forward to next week. We won't get any more Westworld, but we might talk about it again just to, you know, get some more clarity, because we were left with a lot of loose ends in Pose. I'm probably going to watch this week's episode again. I generally watch it several times. But you guys, be good.